Thank you guys for being here. Thanks. Beautiful Westwood.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, Steve. Thank you for doing this.
I just want to point out that the last time we did a Q&A was anyone there in this audience at IMAX headquarters for The Last Jedi, January of 2018?
That was a pretty epic Q&A.
I was going to say, like, that night, for people that were not there, I think we spoke for like 90 minutes. It was one of those epic, crazy nights. I recommend it, in case, anyway, but being serious, I really want to say sincerely thank you for your work, especially on these 3 Knives Out films, for just entertaining all of us and making really good movies.
Oh, man, that's thank you. It's really that's literally my only job, but I appreciate it. Thank you. But no, I appreciate that so much, man. Thank you.
So I like mixing up, Q&As and asking a few things that hopefully you have not been asked. And recently I've been asking a lot of filmmakers about like their favorite movies of other filmmakers. So do you have a favorite Steven Spielberg movie?
Good Lord. Where do you start? I mean, Jesus, I just saw, are they still running the restoration of Jaws at the Academy?
I'm not sure.
It's hard to beat Jaws, but I actually, I have, it would probably have to be the first Raiders. The reality is, I think that that Raiders is a perfect movie. Although, fuck, E.T., come on. E.T. has like the experience, the emotional experience of the ending of E.T. for me as a kid in the theater. I mean, that's kind of set the bar for how I want to feel at the end of every movie. And so just your heart about to explode out of your chest. So, but come on, throw a stone. It's Steven Spielberg. So yeah, I don't know. But that's a boring answer. I'm going to ramble to a stop now.
Different filmmaker. Do you have a Chris Nolan favorite?
It's again, The Prestige. Although again, it's kind of throw a rock and you hit a great movie, because I just read Interstellar and holy shit, that movie holds up. Yeah, it's so good and just emotionally hit me so hard this time. But I think, but then Memento. Okay, that is. No, The Prestige is a perfect movie of several perfect movies he's made.
Now I'm going to ask you for the most difficult one, and you're not going to like this one. Do you have a favorite Kubrick?
Jesus, man. Yeah, I would have to go with, I'm going to say Barry Lyndon is the one that I've seen the most, actually. I love that movie so much, and it's a movie that you can just kind of like sink into like a warm bath, and it's so beautiful, and it reveals more layers every time I see it. And the same thing is true of 2001. So yeah, but no, 2001 is probably my favorite. This is hard. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Sorry.
There's no right answer, but I will say, for who here has seen Barry Lyndon? Well, first of all, awesome. And if you haven't, strong recommend. But the thing about that film, and I'm sure you could talk much better than me, is the way Kubrick shot with candles.
So he developed special, I mean, I'm sure that everyone kind of knows that he developed special lenses because he wanted to shoot literally by candlelight. And so there's scenes in the movie that are absolutely stunning where he's using these, like, I think NASA developed the lenses or something for and it's absolutely insane if you see behind the scenes photos. They actually had an exhibit where they had the lenses that toured around. It was at the Academy Museum also. But those scenes are absolutely incredible, and the focus plane is literally like half of the width of a piece of paper, and so it's nothing you've quite seen before. But the whole movie is just, and he uses zooms in the movie to kind of, in a way that like you think of zooms feeling very 70s and contemporary, but what it does, it flattens the image out and makes you very aware of it as almost a painting. The entire movie is like composed of paintings. And it's also hilarious. I think the movie is really, really funny. So anyway, yeah.
And I don't mean to, I wasn't going to do this, but one of the things that why I love Kubrick and why so many other people love Kubrick is what he was able to accomplish in the 60s and 70s with just pushing technology and movie making to a level that nobody was doing.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. I was really lucky when I was making The Last Jedi. One of the ILM artists, Kevin Jenkins, brought a guy named Rian Johnson to the set. No relation. Brian was an effects guy, old school effects guy who was retired, but he had worked on 2001, and so basically work stopped on the set for like, the AD was kind of like nervously grabbing my arm because I was just entranced, like talking to him about, for example, like some of those big model shots. The thing that you don't realize looking at them is how deep the depth of focus is, and for some of that stuff, the way that they had to do it was by actually photographing the model, and then actually it's a 2D kind of like photograph of the model, because there's no way they could have gone the entire length of the model in focus. Stuff like that where they're literally inventing. It's like the silent era, which is why that's so magic to me. They're literally inventing the way to create a new way of seeing things. It's astounding. But yeah.
In case anyone's not familiar with Kubrick, it's really worth your time watching his films. Just throwing that out there, So you've made a lot of movies and worked on a lot of projects. Which previous project changed you the most as a filmmaker and as a person?
Jeez, man, you're going with the heavy, shit. Okay.
I showed up.
Yeah. I mean,
sorry for my language.
Yeah, I think that every and you guys, I'm sure there's a lot of filmmakers in the audience here today. You guys know it's I mean, it sounds like a cheat, but it's really true. Every single process of that's why we're so lucky to get to do it. Every single process of making a movie is kind of like a particle accelerator growth machine a little bit. I feel like every single one of those, you learn so much, you grow so much as a human being, and I'd be hard pressed to think of a movie that I didn't go through that isn't just kind of a life-changing event. And it's not because of the creative process or anything, although it's kind of that, but again, you guys know it's because of the people, and that's one of the real blessings of making movies in any capacity. It's just you learn so much from the people, from the actors, from the crew, from the creative people that you work with, the relationships you form, and kind of the conflicts even the fights you have and the conflicts that happen. That's where the real kind of personal growth comes from, is from trying to, all being thrown into this rock tumbler together and trying to come out the other end with a story up here on the screen. It's just, I don't know. It's a crazy process, but yeah. So it's a cheat, but it's hard for me I can't really pick one. Yeah.
One more question before jumping into why we're all here tonight. You have done a lot of sequences in a lot of movies. Which shot or sequence ended up being the real, like something that was just a lot more challenging than you expected, or maybe the most challenging shot or sequence of your career?
Well, to kind of just pick one at random. I mean, so the I don't know, because we were just talking about The Last Jedi. There's kind of like an opening fighter, so I get the bombers coming over the dreadnought, and sort of that opening run where Poe makes some bad decisions, and that whole thing was something that usually I'm very used to kind of writing a script, that, and then you get in the edit and you kind of shape it down, or you find the shape a little bit. With that, we had boarded and kind of like done the whole sequence, and it was one of those where in the edit it really wasn't quite clicking, and so it was almost kind of rewriting the sequence of events in the edit a bit. And I don't think you can tell when you watch it, and that's a sort of thing where it was just a fun, like, to use that muscle of sort of being in the edit and really having to kind of in the trenches make it work with the clay that you've got. That was, and then to feel like, oh, okay, when you feel it click, and I think the sequence is working. Yeah, that's really satisfying. But yeah.
Jumping into why we're here. So how much did you debate this title? Was it ever almost something else?
No, I had this title from the very start. It was, and part of it was because sort of the inception of this thing was kind of twofold. It was after Glass Onion, which was which I had so much fun making. I'm really proud of that movie. It was a very kind of broad sort of comedy almost. Yeah,
you heard the clap, right?
I heard a clap. Okay, wasn't fishing for that, but thank you. after that, Daniel and I kind of sat down, and it's not that we were dissatisfied with Glass Onion. We were really proud of what we made, and it's what we set out to make. But we both kind of felt after doing that, it would be most interesting to do something next that felt a little more grounded. And so for me, I thought, well, the best way to kind of force myself to do that is to do something personal, and that's where the idea of this being about faith came from. Not to get boring, but I grew up very, very Christian. I was, and not just like my parents taking me to church. I was really kind of deeply personally Christian through when I was a kid all the way up until my mid-20s, and I'm not anymore. So it's something I've got a lot of feelings about. And so anyway, that was kind of one of the starting points. And then getting into the author that we name check over and over in the movie, John Dixon Carr, and getting into the impossible crime, and then realizing, okay, the impossible crime and the idea of that being miraculous, and that could dovetail with notions of faith, and that could be really interesting. That was kind of the starting point for it. And so the idea of having kind of a resurrection scene at some point partway through, and yeah, wake up dead man. That was, yeah, very literal. Yeah.
Sure. One of the things about after the success of the first two films, I would imagine when you're making this, it's literally like any actor you want, you can call, and they're probably going to say yes. So when you were writing this,
you'd be surprised.
I won't ask you to name names, but I am very curious. When you were writing this, were you seeing any actors in mind, and did they end up getting the role?
Just Daniel Craig. Yeah. Everyone else. Yeah. Everyone else. I don't. I think you kind of learn to try to not do that. Sometimes it's impossible to not have somebody in your head when you're writing, but I think you learn to not do that, because it's kind of a pathway to heartbreak. Because the reality is, we're lucky to, especially now that we're a few movies in, and actors, they're excited about being in the movie, but we're going after the busiest people out there, and schedules don't work, and there's a lot of reasons. And also, these things are ensembles. They're kind of weird beasts where we're trying with each one of them to build an ensemble out of people who are generally number one on the call sheet on any other movie. And that's kind of it's a self-selecting process in a way that I think has led to us having really good experiences on all of them, because what it means is anyone who we're going to, who's of the stature they're at, who's signing up to be one of the suspects in a genuine ensemble, the only reason for them to say yes and do it is because they genuinely love being in an ensemble. That's like the experience they want to have. And not everybody wants that, and I get that, but that's why we end up every time with a group of actors who show up on set and don't want to go back to their trailers, and are just kind of taking joy and just have this. It's almost like a feeling of like a summer stock theater group a little bit, and so inevitably you get actors who are signed up for that. But no, you can never really. I don't know. It's hard to guess in advance, sort of who's going to be down for that.
I have no idea how you write these scripts, and I think the audience has no idea how you write these scripts. So how do you write these scripts?
Jesus. I mean, slowly, painfully. Yeah, I mean, I guess generally the way that I approach it, which is how I kind of have always read, I write really structurally. That's kind of just how I learned it. I think we all kind of learn a way of doing it, and kind of you just get used to that. So I spend a lot of time outlining. I'd say I spend the first 80% of the process just working in little notebooks outlining. It's outlining, but it's also working on character. It's, theme. It's kind of, writing dialogue sometimes. It's a lot of things, but it's mostly outlining. It's mostly getting the whole shape of it to the point where I can draw a line in little crosshatches and kind of see the shape of the entire movie on one page of like the smaller size moleskin notebooks, and that's kind of what I'm trying to get to with it. And I don't start at the beginning or end. I kind of start zoomed back, like with Google Maps. Like you start with like Google Earth, basically. Like, and it's typically the mystery stuff is pretty fuzzy until later in the process. That's one of the things that writing wise, I feel like I kind of figured out sink or swim kind of quickly with these things is clue gathering and the notion of who done it and kind of the mystery stuff. I mean, you have to put a lot of work into that. You have to get it really working, but you also always have to remember when you're writing a mystery that that's it's not a load-bearing structure. It's not something you can actually lean on to entertain the audience, and you're in big trouble if you start thinking that that stuff is actually going to keep people interested. So you kind of have to start with the same muscular stuff that you start with any other movie. You have to start with a protagonist. You got to figure out what they want, why they can't get it, why the audience cares about them. You have to, and so that's kind of the first kind of line that you draw, is figuring out, and also we talked about E.T. earlier, figuring out what's going to make the ending of the movie satisfying, and the answer will never be because the audience didn't guess that that person did it. It always has to be something that's character-based, hopefully emotional, and hopefully something that's planted at the beginning. It's the ending is the end arc of something that you throw at the beginning, basically. And
How long does it actually take you from when you first set out to start writing to finishing the script?
I'm trying to get faster. It used to take me a long time, and I used to, like Looper. I spent like my producer Ram is here. He can probably throw out a number of how long Looper I was working on for like years, I think. And I kind of slowly realized I was wasting a lot of time. That I can write faster than that, I think. So I've been trying to write faster. I'd say with this one, it was from when I actually started writing, probably about 8 months or so, I would guess.
That's crazy.
It's anyone who writes here knows it's just miserable. It's just there's nothing fun about writing.
That's the thing. Like, and I think for a lot of people here probably do try to write, and it's like staring at that blank page and then getting to this is really, really hard.
Yeah, but it's hard. It's hard writing anything. I mean, everybody who writes tries to write. It's like it's you feel like you're kind of lonely and kind of eating poorly and feeling like you're letting everyone down, and it feels like it's never going to work until suddenly you've been banging your head against the screen for long enough, and suddenly it starts kind of working, and then is this gonna? And then finally at the end of it, you've got something, and then you show it to friends, and they tell you why it's not working, and you go back in and start rewriting it. So it's this is our life.
I'm so curious about the editing process because I love talking about editing. What is it like editing one of these films in terms of, do a lot of things change in the editing room, or is it very structured?
With these, it tends to be structured, but at the same time, my editor Bob Doucet, who I've worked with since Looper, he and I mean, we dive in. Because these movies are, I think, because they are kind of jigsaw puzzles. It's not like we have cards up on the wall and can shift around. What if this scene goes here? There is a linear nature to them, but at the same time, I mean, you're dealing with the same stuff that you're dealing in any movie. You're dealing with pacing. You're dealing with running time was a big thing with this one. With this one, I did something that I had never done before. We got to the end of the process, and it was literally like we were going to go mix the movie in like 2 weeks. And I was feeling really, really insecure about is the movie too long? I was just nervous about the running time, and just kind of feeling like, because I felt so close to the movie, I was like, was I too precious? Have I been hard enough on the cut? And so I did something I had never done. I went in with Bob over the weekend, and I basically we made a copy of it in the Avid. And then I did an exercise. I let myself say, okay, this isn't going to be the movie. This is an exercise. And I basically did the asshole studio took over the movie cut. I did like the Terry Gilliam Brazil like cut. And I even in the edit like did a voice. That's the only way I could get. I got into character and did a voice. I became like asshole studio head. And I was like, why are we still in the church? Cut away from the show. Why do we need to see it? And by the way, none of the executives on this are assholes. I had to invent this character. But we cut 30 minutes out of basically the movie that you guys just watched. Literally anything we could cut out went. And then we sat down and watched that cut, and it was so useful for me because first of all, there were a couple of things where it's like, okay, some version of that cut might be a good idea, but the majority of it was seeing the movie without it kind of let me know why the stuff that had to be in, why that stuff had to be there. Like basically, you felt the absence of it in some deeper way that just gave me kind of the confidence to say, okay, it's worth it to take the time to do this, that, and the other. So yeah, but yeah, it was an interesting process.
I'm curious, how long was that cut that you're like, it's probably not going to get shorter than this?
Are you talking about before I like did that
Yeah.
crazy shit? It was about this. I think it was. We did find a few minutes, so I bet this is like at 2 hours and 18 minutes. I bet it was like 2:21 or something. Like
Oh,
that.
so it's not like a dramatic difference.
No, it was just a few. No, at that point you've got it down to a fine thing, but that feels like 3 minutes feels like a dramatic difference at that point. It's kind of.
Oh,
yeah,
I've spoken
yeah.
to some people who are like, I would cut 30 minutes out.
Yeah. It's I don't know, man. Editing is it's weird because and again, anyone who's gone through any version of the process knows it's diabolically designed to where you're making the most critical decisions at the end of the process when you have lost all perspective creatively and are completely burned out on the movie. And but that's that's a job.
That's what I wanted to ask you about specifically because there's so many people, like when you're in the editing room, for people that don't realize, what are the hours like for you and Bob in the editing room, and how long are you actually cutting for?
I mean, we it's kind of like office hours in the edit room. I used to like Brick, my first movie. I just cut on a computer. Thank you. In my bedroom, and so that was just kind of working like crazy hours and like 18 hours a day. But now I have a professional editor working with me, and so we kind of keep regular hours. And in terms of the length of the actual cut, I don't know. Rom, how is Rom's here somewhere? You shout out, Rom. How long was the 30 weeks? He says. I believe him.
Yeah, the thing that a lot of filmmakers have told me, and you just mentioned it, is that you've seen the movie like 1,000 times, and it's very, very like some people have told me they've cut out jokes that are funny because they've heard them 1,000 times and they no longer have perspective on it.
You have to be so careful with that, and I tend to cut really deep really quickly. I think Bob is generally has to kind of like pull the reins back in terms of let's not lose that yet, because I tend to like want to just like shave it away really fast. So and yeah, and you have to make sure also that you're not I don't know, the first thing that you're tempted to cut is always letting it breathe and always air, and sometimes that's what the movie needs most. So it's it's such a, and there's always the thing with the feature of because I grew up doing shorts, and with a short you just you get every scene working and then the thing kind of works, and with a feature, as you guys know, you get every scene working perfectly and you watch the whole movie to put together, and it's like and then it's like diagnosing a sick cow or something. It's this mysterious beast that you can't. There's no obvious kind of like. It's not like its guts are hanging out of its butt or something. There's nothing obviously wrong with it, and yet it's sick, and you have to kind of figure out okay. And oftentimes, if the ending is not working, it's because something isn't landing at the beginning, and it's just. But that's a really fun part because it becomes this very intuitive sort of I don't know problem solving, I guess.
You are obviously friends with many directors and many people in town. Who do you typically like to show an early cut to for like honest feedback?
I have a couple of two close friends. I mean, two people who are really instrumental in this were two writer friends of mine who I've just known since film school, Dan and Stacy Sheridan, who are just really good friends of mine. But then Karin Kusama is a really tight friend, and she and her husband Phil Hay. I always really lean on them, and Guillermo del Toro did watch the cut and had some really really good notes, and
I got to pause right there.
yeah.
Guillermo is such a smart guy.
Yeah.
What is it like showing him the movie? Are you extra nervous or a little bit nervous?
I'm terrified, but also he's so friendly. You'd never feel like Guillermo's gonna come out and like really like knife you or something. Like he's gonna come out and give you a big old Guillermo hug, and then he'll give you some tough notes. But it's always, I don't know, it's hard to be too scared of Guillermo.
Can you say what was one of the things that he suggested, and did you put that in the film?
He had a bunch of stuff, and I would be hard pressed to kind of like put to it, but I did. Yeah, I absolutely did a bunch of his notes actually. Yeah, yeah.
So one of the things you have worked with, I want to make sure I say this right, with Steve Yedlin, your DP, for a long time, and I'm so curious. Like I think since the beginning. So I'm so
Before the beginning.
So what is it actually like in terms of getting ready to get on set? You must have a shorthand by now. Like, how do you guys discuss the look and feel of a movie before getting to set?
Yeah, it's kind of all the pros and cons of just kind of working kind of like an old married couple at this point, which is nice because there is that shorthand. It's also nice in that we can't really offend each other. You can kind of say anything. Yeah, there's no tact between us at this point, which is really nice. And we also just love each other. I mean, we were, I met Steve on a student film set. He was still in high school actually, and I was like a freshman at USC, and so we've been making movies together since then. And he shot everything I've ever done. So. I don't know. So it's there is definitely a shorthand, but there's also, I think the ideal thing is that gives you a comfort base to kind of try new stuff, like all the dramatic lighting changes in this, which was something I worked with Steve on from the very start. All the stuff in the church. I mean, that was all a lot of prep work by Steve, and that was just through a lot of conversations before we started up.
So Ridley Scott is famous for using 7/8 cameras on every scene and wrapping early that day. And Roger Deakins is famous for just shooting with one camera and like no coverage. So how do you and Steve typically like to work, and where are the exceptions to the rule?
I feel like I kind of learned how to use a second camera actually working on Breaking Bad. That was kind of my first
You were involved in
experience.
Breaking Bad?
Yeah, luckily. Are you guys watching Pluribus, by the way? You guys, it's so good. It's so good. Yeah, that was kind of my first thing. First of all, the TV pace, but Brick, we could only afford one camera, but that was my first thing of kind of figuring out. Typically, the way that will work, because this was the first movie in a while where I storyboarded the whole movie before we started up with it. So there will be kind of the main ideas for the shots, and then typically we'll then use the second camera if we can get a good shot that's actually useful with it. So we're basically shooting with one camera, and then we have the second camera there, and we'll find something for the second camera to do. Or sometimes I'll design the shots thinking, okay, A camera's here, and that means the B camera can be here. And sometimes I think we had 3 cameras on set, but it's all, I mean, time-wise, it's always useful. And then one thing specific to these movies, which Glass Onion had a lot more of, but the scenes in this where it's like all 8 suspects sitting around together, inevitably, 2 cameras is incredibly useful just because you're getting a large. That is one thing where you realize those scenes are actually built out of reaction shots, and so that's one thing where you can't skimp, and you gotta get everybody listening to a shot of everyone listening to everybody else. So there comes a point in the day where you are just kind of grinding it out, going around the room, and sometimes it feels like one of those sliding puzzle things with the tiles in terms of where you can literally fit 2 cameras in. And if you saw like a shot from the actor's POV, it would just be comical of the cameraman distorted into a thing. And also it always ends up like the other thing that like the poor actors, the way that we shoot these, inevitably they're not looking at the other actor, they're looking at a piece of tape on the cameraman's shoulder or something, so the eye line will be right. It ends up leading to all kinds of shenanigans.
I don't think people realize just movie making is silly.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's so silly. Yeah, that's why we love it.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he's in a lot of your movies. I believe I looked at the credits and he plays the baseball announcer.
Yeah, he's the voice on the TV announcing the baseball, which was fun.
Was he?
Yeah. No, and it was fun for me. I'm a baseball fan, and I got to write like the baseball commentary. And we also, so the movie is set in 2025, and I did all this. I was so excited. I picked a game, a Cubs. That's why it's a Cubs game. That's why Samson is a Cubs fan. That was happening on Good Friday on 2025 during the day. which was it. We shot the movie, like it hadn't happened yet when we were editing the movie, like we had a slug in, and then right before we mixed, we recorded that game and comped it in. And I was so proud of myself, like, oh, this movie is actually taking place like in the day when it's supposed to, and all that. And then when that Good Friday actually happened, like the day after it, when they're actually investigating the murder, was the day that the Pope died. And I was like, well, there goes all the, because that would have probably come up in this movie if this was so. But the baseball game is spot on.
Was Joseph was
Very inconvenient of the Pope to die for my movie timeline. Let me be clear for the audience at home.
You shot in London, I believe. Tax reasons or other reasons?
It was several reasons. I mean, yeah, some of them were that, but there was also, I mean, Daniel and a lot of our cast were based in London. It also, the big chunk of it takes place kind of at a big stone church in the middle of the woods, and they have a lot of those outside of London. So there were a lot of and just the fact that it was kind of that, and then a bunch of stage work. It made sense to shoot in London, and we used a lot of the same crew. Like our camera operators were the ones we had on The Last Jedi, and it was a little bit of a family reunion. We just I really had a good time with the crews over there.
Talk about your collaborations with Nathan Johnson. I should be clear. Is it, at this point, do you sort of just trust him, or is it sort of like giving him like recommended words, or you know what I mean? Like, how does that work?
Trust nobody. Nathan, yeah. So Nathan is my cousin, who's my composer, and so Nathan and I, he's got Steve beat. Nathan and I have been making movies together since we were 10 years old, and he's done all my movies except for The Last Jedi, which we let this new kid try the score for The Last Jedi. And also a real quick little tiny little anecdote. I think this is funny enough to the when Nathan and I were making movies when we were kids, it was still like videotape, and so you had to get like a Discman hooked up to one channel of the audio and like pause and record and hit play on the Discman to like add music into it. And the only soundtrack CD we had was the soundtrack to Hook, which is a banger soundtrack. It's a great soundtrack. And so we scored all of our like kid movies to the Hook soundtrack. And so at the end of the process with The Last Jedi, the one thing that I asked John for two things, and one of them, I got the Hook LP, and I asked him to sign it to Nathan, and that was my gift to Nathan for putting him out of work for a few years. But yeah.
You put together a hell of a cast. Which of the actors, who really surprised you on set in terms of either their ability or just what they brought to set in a way maybe that you were not expecting?
Well, Glenn Close slept her way through the entire cast on this in the first week. No, that's not true. That's trying to make it interesting. No, I mean, every single one of them surprises you. I will say, so starting with Glenn Close, who it was a bucket list thing for me to work with Glenn, and it was and immediately we just became really close. I adore her so much. And Glenn, I guess the thing that really surprised me with Glenn, because I was really intimidated going to work with her, and she definitely, she shows up on set every day, and you think about her filmography. It gives you vertigo when you actually start thinking about all the amazing performances she's given in every. She's in Hook. She plays in the boo box in Hook. Yeah. So I show up and the thing that surprised me about Glenn, although it makes sense, is she shows up every day on set, and she has the energy of a kid who's just gotten their first job on set, and she genuinely loves the process. She loves making movies, and she's giddy, literally just like playing and kind of like the play of it. And she's, and so, but then you see the energy she has on screen, and that shouldn't surprise you. You're like, oh, that comes from somewhere, and it comes from her just being so alive in the process, to the point where it's inspiring, I think, for everyone on set, especially the younger actors. It's pretty cool.
How did you decide on Josh? Because I imagine you were thinking about a lot of people.
Well, we were until I met until I saw Challengers, and then that was my favorite movie of that year. And then I saw La Chimera, and my head was just spun, like, because there's at the opposite ends of the pole. There's such different performances, and he's equally as magnetic in both. And at this point, I just saw Mastermind for the second time. It's so good. And Josh is, I think he can kind of do anything. So the instant Josh got on my radar, there was nobody else but him. And he's, he's easy. He's also a suspiciously nice person. But I don't know. I am so excited to see his career develop from here, because I feel like we've only started to see the gears that this guy has. He's the real deal.
I was going to say, for people that don't realize, I think he's the lead in Spielberg's film next summer.
He's working with Spielberg. He's doing Joel Cohen's next movie. He's like if we went to him now, we probably wouldn't have gone in him. Basically, like he's taken off into the stratosphere, rightly so. But he is just a hell of an actor, man. He's really something special. Yeah.
This might be my last question. I think I'm almost out of time. Or out of time. It's true. Are there any Easter eggs in the film that people should look out for the second time they watch it?
I mean, it's kind of, I don't know. I'm not quite sure what Easter eggs are in the context of a movie like this, because the whole thing is kind of, it's a castle made of Easter eggs.
No, I don't mean it like, like that. I mean it like, is there a starship from Last Jedi?
Oh.
Is there like things in the movie that like your production designer put in there?
I don't know if you can actually see this, but I promise it's there. So in Glass Onion, we did a whole bit with Jeremy Renner having his own brand of artisanal hot sauce called Renning Hot, and his face is on the front of it. And so there is in the scene in the bar that Jeremy's in playing Dr. Nat, there's a bottle of that hot sauce on the counter. I don't know if you can actually see it, but I like the notion that and in Glass Onion also there was a Zoom call at the beginning where Natasha Lyonne is playing a video game with Blanc and Stephen Sondheim and Kareem and Angela Lansbury, and we shot that in her trailer when we were doing the show Poker Face that I do with Natasha. And so in the world of these movies, Natasha Lyonne exists, and the show Poker Face also exists. And so if Jeremy Renner ever had done like a Poker Face episode, it would have the circle would have just, I don't know. That's not an Easter egg. It's a spiralized Easter egg. What were those?
No, it's I mean, you're basically saying Poker Face and the Knives Out movies take place in the same universe.
Sure. Get Christopher Nolan in here. Let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed the movie, please use this thing called social media.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
No. I don't mean for spoilers. I just mean to be like, it's worth watching.
I mean, generally, just in life. Don't.
Yeah.
That, yeah.
And as I said at the beginning, please do not say any spoilers online.
We're all cool here. We're all cool.
Just throwing that out there. Ladies and gentlemen, I will just say Rian Johnson.
Guys, thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you. And thanks, Steve Chip.